Hello, everybody. Hey, John.
Howdy.
So, everybody, we've got today Jon Reyes, the CEO and founder of eComVids, one of the most awesome video companies out there, ecom videos companies, which is very, very exciting because John and his team has outputted over 5,000 videos for the past 2 years, which is an insane volume when it ends. Everybody knows that creative is king in e-commerce. So we're here today to talk about creatives, how to make the best creatives in the world, and how to crush e-commerce in 2020 using creative strategy. So thanks a lot, John, for getting on the call.
Absolutely, Matt. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, and happy Thanksgiving and happy Black Friday, everybody.
Yeah, exactly. So it's super funny that we're chatting here during Black Friday when everybody else is going crazy. But
Yeah.
it's a pleasure to we got to think long term as well. Everything for Black Friday, I'm not sure about you, but for us, it was already planned weeks before. So all is taken
Absolutely.
care of. So, John, can you introduce yourself a little bit and what is it that you do specifically?
If you guys don't know me, my name is Jon Reyes. I have been an entrepreneur since 2013. I used to have a pretty big supplement company selling on Amazon. I was in charge of all the direct response marketing, funnels, landing page design. And long story short, I'll keep it brief, but in 2016, I lost my business. In fact, I was at a point in my life where I was partying too much, spending too much, just being reckless. And my partners actually bought me out of my own company. So as you guys know, that's very devastating. And what happened was I lost everything, basically had to restart all over again. So it taught me so much about, personal growth and perseverance and all this stuff. I was trying to find new ways to basically regenerate my income, pay off debts, and find new business opportunities. I came across dropshipping in 2017 and basically, found out how to do Facebook ads and do dropshipping videos and made a lot of money in that time frame. But then I realized like these videos are all stolen. And so after getting tons of accounts banned, as you guys know, if you guys are in the dropshipping niche, I was like, let's provide a video service where dropshippers could get custom videos because there's no company out there that's doing that. And so that's when eComVids came about in 2018, and we were charging $99 a video. So 99 bucks for an American company to charge video, which is pretty insane, but we did it anyways. And fast forward to today, 2020, we've successfully created over 5,000 videos. We have over 30 team members, our own studio, and we've done a lot of creatives. And so it's been a lot of fun. It's been a crazy journey, lots of ups and downs, but I'm very grateful for the opportunity to, be, I would guess, in this position, and I'm very thankful for it.
Yeah, that's a pretty awesome story, and especially I'd love to ask you some more questions about how you kind of reinvented yourself after all those failures. But before we jump into that, let's actually narrow down on the video aspect of it, right? So you guys are basically not anymore doing some what traditionally or is understood as dropshipping videos, right? You don't patch together some content from out there. You do professional productions, right? Can you walk us through what's the process like, and how do you go about receiving the products, and what do you actually do with them later?
Still work with dropshippers who are making 6 to 7 figures. Obviously they come to us when they're looking for original content, whether they found a winning product, they've found success on their own, and they're ready to either elevate their brand, take it to the next level, and be able to get creatives that they can actually scale without potentially getting shut down. The process is really simple for us. Obviously we have different packages on our website, but basically select a package, fill out a questionnaire, then send us your product. And when we're not crazy busy, the turnaround is about 15 business days. So it's that simple. And once we get your product, basically we've systemized a creative process that we're able to just like pump out really awesome quality scripts, ideas, and produce your content. And basically you'll be updated along the way with our project management team and all this really cool stuff. So you're not kind of left in the dark wondering where your video's at. You can communicate with us at any point. And so, yeah, we've worked with a lot of drop shippers and other brands as well. But yeah, that's our process.
Got it. So why does it matter to have a professional creative production when it comes to running a dropshipping or an e-commerce business?
That's a great question. Now, I think the word professional could be misconstrued. Sometimes professional might mean like high production, like I need a video from Harmon Brothers to be successful, and that's not true. Or I need to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a cinematic video, and because that's what I'm told to do, and that's not true either. The thing is with video, especially for ads these days, it doesn't need to be crazy production quality. In fact, sometimes the less produced it is, the better it converts. And we've learned that, having the right video team and having the right creatives makes a big difference. And having a production team that actually does e-com will make or break your business, because a lot of the other traditional production companies are not used to, they don't know conversion rates, they don't know CTRs, they don't know ROAS, they don't know scroll stoppers. They're just making a video based off of, what they think is cool or what looks cool. And for me, I never had any production experience. I've always been a direct response marketer. And I know what really works is what gets people's attention and gets people to click through. And so when you're a brand or a dropshipper and you're ready to take it to that next level, for dropshippers, it's extremely important that you get custom content, right? If you're going to be running someone else's ads or clips off of YouTube, there's only so much you can do with that. And one, everyone has access to that content. And so you're not differentiating yourself in the market, right? And if you're a brand, you need to consistently put out new content to keep yourself relevant and to test new angles, which is so important. So you need a production team for both of those. If you're not doing it yourself, right? Or if you don't have an in-house team, which is, also another challenge. But yeah, regardless, creative should be top priority for every brand, really.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. Like the more the better. The volume is what matters, and like how fast you test and how fast you fail in terms of the creative angles, right? But then people, everybody or most of the people in the market, especially if they've been around, they know that creative matters. But what matters the most when it comes to the making creatives that are gonna be high converting direct response creatives? How to actually make a creative that's gonna get sales and not just look fancy?
Absolutely. That's a great question as well. I think number one is research. Okay. And not just making a video for the sake of making a video, but making a video that actually communicates directly to your customer based off of their pain points that they really need, or like that they actually are experiencing. There's a ton of different ways to do this. Obviously, Amazon, going to forums, looking at competitors, right? Once you are able to break down really what makes a customer tick, then it's just about, creating a very simple process of like having a solid scroll stopper or hook that grabs attention, offering a couple major benefits, and then call to action. It's a very simple process, but a lot of people miss that. They miss the part where it's like, who's my audience and what am I selling to them, and how do I communicate to them in a way that really grabs their emotions? Because at the end of the day, creative is an emotional game, and also it's an attention game. So I would say the two things are doing your customer research, and number two, focusing on creatives that really stop the scroll, right? And in that case, that first 3 to 5 seconds is so crucial, because it doesn't matter how long your video is. If you don't get them to stop watching your video, it's pointless, right? And so we internally have generated, I don't know, hundreds of different types of like hooks that we use internally. But it goes down to you on your Facebook and what grabs your attention. Why did it grab your attention? Was it visually appealing? Was there a statistic that you wanted to learn about? Was it really like visual? What were those hooks that got you to watch that video? Because once you get that attention, then you essentially have that viewer. So yeah, those are the two things.
Do you mind sharing any kind of hook ideas that people can reuse for their particular business? And I think that always works.
So we actually have a creative swipe that I'm happy to share with your audience. It's 50 scroll stoppers and hooks. And basically we've curated, a ton of different ideas that we've done in the past. One thing that comes to mind is obviously the pain point solution. Addressing a major pain point, offering the solution. It's really important if you're going to do a pain point or any type of demonstration is that you're going really extreme. I mean, the more extreme you are, the more visually appealing it's going to be, and the more it's going to catch someone's attention. So There was actually a video that I saw recently, and I think it was for like a bidet, one that like cleans your bum, right? And I think their scroll stopper was like just hundreds of toilet paper like going into a toilet, and it was the craziest scroll stopper I've ever seen. But immediately I was like, oh my god, I gotta watch this video. And I don't even know how they did it. It must have been like a 3D modeling, but it looked real. But it was just that, that's all it took to get my attention to watch the whole thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm sold. The thing that I like to do is like, I don't care what product it is. I don't care if it's, leak-proof underwear or if it's a cool tech gadget. I want to be sold. And basically after I'm done watching that video, I want to be able to be like, yeah, I want to buy that. I don't even care if it's for me. But some other ideas, you can do a wow factor, so you can find something incredible that your product does. For example, as you guys probably know, the indestructible shoe, we shot that thing so many different times, blowing it up, hitting it with a hammer, cutting it in half, catching it, like throwing it off buildings, like so many different crazy demonstrations that you can do that are just like shocking. That's going to grab your attention, right? Another thing you can do is like reactions, authentic reactions. People just like, what is that? Oh my God, that's crazy. You can do 3D animations or 2D animations, things that are going to get your curiosity sparked or piqued. And be like, what is that? What am I watching? Because honestly, that first 3 to 5 seconds, people don't even know what they're seeing. and it's just enough to get them in the door. So once you get them in the door, then you can actually, make your selling proposition there.
Yeah, great idea. So great. Okay, so is there any particular, you mentioned in terms of your video structures, you mentioned, of course, we're starting from a scroll stoppers, then some benefits, then call to action. Are there any particular creative formats or formulas that work best in 2020 and probably are going to stay in 2021?
What we've noticed is definitely shorter works now. One, everyone's exposed to ads on a daily basis, even more than ever before. There's more advertisers on Facebook. It's basically, I would say the floodgates have opened up for pretty much anyone to come in and start advertising, right? So it's gotten a lot more, you've got to be a lot more, I would say, smart with your creatives, because what you could run in like 2018 or 2017 is different now. But ultimately, the principles are the same. You just have shorter window of attention span, in my opinion. And so the scroll stopper is everything in terms of the hook. And what you can do is play around with the meat potatoes of the video, right? Different unique selling proposition. You can focus on primary benefit, depending on how many benefits and features your product has. You can alternate those and test different variations of that. And so what we've noticed is like a 40-second spot, a video that is jam-packed with really amazing content that leaves you wanting more is really going to drive conversions. You don't want to put everything into your video. If you're running like quick ecom videos, you don't want to like bore people. You don't want to oversell people, and you don't want to put every single benefit and feature. That's one of the big things that like a lot of our clients like, it needs to have this button and that feature and that thing. And I'm like, people don't care about that. People want to know that one main benefit for them, and that's it. And then you want them to click through and let your website do a lot of the heavy lifting, because that's really key, is getting them to click through. So, our standard scroll stopper, have your couple benefits, call to action, really simple. Throw some social proof in there, but it really is, there's no direct answer. The answer is test a lot. The answer is don't ever stick to one video format, because people like to consume things short form. Some people like to consume long form. And it's all about seeing which one really works for you and being flexible and open-minded to see like, okay, which format's best for our audience, right? The younger generation, they're going to want it really short. Older people like longer videos. And so there's a happy medium depending on what your niche is.
Got it. So we're talking less than 40-second videos, jam-packed, but not all the benefits. Are you also about fast-paced? Do you believe that fast-paced should be the goal of the video?
Whatever grabs your attention. We always try to speed things up. The moment there's a lull or a drop in your attention, you've lost that person, And so you want those quick cuts as best you can, depending if your product is, a very action-based product. If it's an ab stimulator, you want that thing to be stimulating, right? You may not want to do that every time for maybe like a sleep product or something like that. But depending on what mood you want to bring out, whether that's excitement, adrenaline, or fear, or whether it's on the opposite end, like relaxation and peacefulness, right? There's, depending on the mood and theme of your product, that's how you want to deliver your creative.
All great answers. So now I want to jump into a broader topic, which is how do you standardize creativity, right? How do you put processes on something so creative, such as, video ideation and things like that in your team? So first of all, how many people are on your team?
So we have right now over 30 people, 20 here in the US, and then we have a big team in the Philippines as well.
Got it. So that's quite a team. How long did it take you to grow to that team?
It took us about, we've had a lot of different evolutionary stages within the company. We had a team that'll get you to 7 figures or 6 figures, right? Or that first $1 million. And then sometimes that team will evolve and you'll need to get a new team to get you to that 3 million mark or that 5 million or 10 million. And it's really just about finding really good quality people who are autonomous, who are leaders, who can think for themselves. And so we kind of went through different phases, but it took us a good moment, but we realized like the person that you bring on the team is so important. I used to just hire a bunch of my friends and that's not necessarily the best case. It's, you kind of have to do a psychological test to figure out who would be a good fit in terms of values and, skill sets and all those things. But yeah, does that answer your question?
It kind of does. So then my next question, follow up on that, would be, how do you set up a team where creatives can thrive? Like what's do creatives work well with managers? How is your team organized? What are the different kind of divisions? Who is involved in the creative process in general?
This is something really interesting, and I get this asked here and there for agencies, as well as people who are trying to build their own in-house video team. And let me tell you this, creative is a whole nother beast. And that's why we only focus on that, because the amount of systems you have to create to make a systemized creative flow takes some work, but this is something we're really excited about because we want to help other people do this. I would say a majority of our team are all creative people. So that's the first key, is putting the right people who can come up with ideas, who know, how to shoot, how to edit, that kind of stuff. But our process is very systematic because it has to be, and that's how we're able to produce hundreds of videos a month. But it comes down to having the right things in place every time, a new project comes in. So, okay, for us, new project comes in, what do? We do research. We have to. So we get our creative director, our junior creative director, our script writers, myself, my creative officer, and we sit on a Zoom call and we break down what this product is, what it does, who are the competitors. Let's read Amazon reviews. Let's find the most common sayings for this product. And so once we do a big brain dump of like, okay, now we've gathered all the data that we possibly need, given the time, of course, now we start breaking down basically angles. Okay, so we'll start shooting angles. Okay, what are the biggest pain points to this product? Okay, what are some awesome demonstrations that we can do? What are some crazy demonstrations that no one's ever thought about? Right? Because we like to create like contrasting ideas where it's like, okay, this credit card, if we want to sell a credit card, how are we going to get someone's attention? Okay, what's an extreme thing you could do to the credit card? Okay, let's shred it, or let's try to put it into an ATM machine over and over and over again. But we'll just start throwing ideas out, and as we do this, we're taking notes, right? And then basically from there, we're sifting through the best ideas and documenting that. But afterwards is when our script writers will actually write out the script, the captions, the B-roll shots, any effects, or any other details that are important for the video. Then it gets transferred over to our pre-production, our production team, where they go over the shot list, make sure everything is ready for production. Then we schedule talent, and then pretty much shoot the video, and then it gets sent over to our editors, and then our creative approval team, where we make the final tweaks to make sure it's as tip-top as possible. And then we deliver. So you can do that, with a small team. I mean, when we first started out, it was just 3 of us, and you could do this with one person. Obviously, it's going to take a little bit longer, and this person would need to know how to shoot, how to write, how to edit, but it's totally possible. You could do a 2-man team, you can do a 1-man team, you can do a 3-man team. But really comes down to, you got to have an idea guy. You got to have someone who knows how to come up with ideas. and you got to have someone who can fulfill the shooting aspect and the editing aspect, right? And then you're probably going to need an operations person looking over just where things are at, right? Just making sure if we need to get talent in the door, just kind of doing all the ancillary stuff that you don't necessarily think about, like getting props, making sure the product works, right? Those are all little things that, a lot of people overlook. It's like, oh, I just got to shoot the thing. It's like, okay, there's a lot that goes into that. But I would say, depending on where you're at, you could definitely scale it up if you have those processes and steps in place.
Yeah, that's an awesome process, and it kind of got me thinking what you said before about, certain people that are going to get you from A to B are not going to be the same people that are going to get you from B to C, right? And also, eventually companies, just the same applies to dropshippers who need their videos. You start from like content that you get, then you got to use, some external provider, right, in order to get to the next level, right? Or you got to build your own team, which is significantly more difficult, and I definitely don't recommend it for people, unless you're doing a huge volume, right? Or you've got a multiple brand portfolio, right?
Absolutely.
That's really, really interesting. So how do you actually find talent that's both creative, right? So that's both creative and understands the marketing psychology, right? Because this is the main theme, that if you're going for, editors or even videographers, like the main problem you get is that people are great at execution or creativity, but there's very few who also understand the principles of the direct response marketing, right?
And this is actually an interesting question I was thinking about initially when you brought it up. Was there's no the thing is, direct response isn't taught in schools, right? And rarely do people take psychology classes, and if they do, they're just scratching the surface as to what psychology has to bring, right? And persuasion and all these things that you and I and a lot of our audiences has really studied. The common person doesn't know this stuff, and so finding talent is going to be difficult because it's just an emerging industry. Honestly, for us, we had to build everyone from the ground up. And it's a lot more cost effective, but it takes more time. Okay. And basically, if you're the CEO, if you're the marketing, chief marketing officer, whoever you are, it's really important that you bring on people who just have innate qualities within them that you need for the business. So if this person is a creative person in general, they're going to be creative regardless, right? So your natural skill sets and your natural talents are what I look for in talent, in people, really. Like, do you care about your own standards, right? Like, do you have high standards for yourself? Are you a leader? Are you a creative thinker? Are you a problem solver? Are you a good communicator? All of these, obviously, a quality characteristics are going to carry you so much further. And I think you have to really drill in who you're working with to bring that out in people first, because everyone will say that they are, but 2 months, 3 months, even a couple months down the line, you'll realize, oh man, this person wasn't what they initially said they were. So you need to put people through real tests and kind of give them scenarios, give them trial runs to see if they're worth it. But those who are hungry will definitely succeed. And in terms of the direct response stuff, even our team is getting to that level, because here's the thing, we trained everyone from the ground up. So editors didn't know how to edit, videographers didn't know how to shoot, writers didn't know how to write for ads, right? They were writers. So it was really, I would say, challenging for us for me to be able to okay, this is what direct response is, here's what a funnel is, here's what an ad looks like, right? It really challenges them if you put it upon them to do their homework. And what I was been doing recently is, okay, I assign people, hey, I need you to watch X amount of ads or watch this presentation, and then I want to talk about it with you. And I want to know what you learned from it. Because the more you can empower your people and give them you're not just telling people what to do, all the time, because they really have to own the information. And once they own that information, they understand it, they experience it for themselves, is when they're the most effective. And it's like, aha, like even to you, to us, we're like, okay, that's a pain point. That's this and that. And it's very common sense to us. But for other people who don't know that stuff, they're going to have their own breakthroughs, and you've got to respect those breakthroughs, and you've got to encourage those breakthroughs. It's like, yes, that is a scroll stopper. That is a hook. That is a CTA. Yes. Whether you're an editor, whether you're a videographer, whether you're in operations, whether you're a copywriter, whatever the case may be, really give people empowerment when they do something right. Because then that triggers that dopamine, or builds a stronger connection, right? And that's what I do for my people. When they do something great, they do something right, I definitely like to acknowledge that. And that helps the learning process. But, initially it's getting down to the basics. You gotta have that roadmap kind of planned out. Otherwise, you'll get really frustrated. You're like, oh, this person's not working out. That person's not working out. It's just a time thing. Some people right out of the gate are amazing and you're like, oh, I got super lucky. But a lot of the times they're not. And you just kind of have to be patient.
Yeah, and you gotta create the environment for them to thrive, just like you mentioned. You gotta give them, let them learn their own mistakes, but at the same time, like give them the direction that they need to be owning the process, right? And that's, like you're here, you gotta be a problem solver, right? I'm also curious. So what do you have some kind of clever tests that you give to your people before you hire them? What's your hiring process like? And yeah, how do you evaluate who's gonna be a good creative?
Gone through a lot of different, I would say, employees. Number one for me is really the energy and the chemistry. I think is extremely important, because you don't want to work with people who you don't like working with, and you want to work with people who you enjoy working with. For me, asking more like personal development questions, like do you value like your education, like et cetera, those things, once I get those out of the way, then it's about, okay, let us put you through a real test of a real client, like a real script or a real video shoot or a real edit. Like, we have to do these initial tests to see where they're at in terms of execution quality, right? Because like I said, people say that they're amazing, but once it comes down to the execution, you're like, what? You're not too slow. You missed a lot of things. You don't really know what you're talking about. You get nervous, whatever the case may be. And so we're able to gauge, if an editor comes to us and like, I want a job, cool, take this test that we made. Here's the raw footage. Here's some sample captions. We kind of have these templates already made. And then if it's a hit, I ask some questions. Hey, how long did this take you to do? What was your thought process? Why did you make that choice? To kind of understand the actual, if their critical thinking skills are there, or it's like, no, I just copied a video, and this took me. If the answer is like, this was actually really easy for me to do, I would love to do more stuff, then it's like, okay, I'm interested. Great. If someone says this took me so long to do, I wasn't really sure with a lot of things, like that tells me, okay, maybe this person isn't right for the position. So yeah, it's a little bit of that. It's a little bit of, testing out, like just putting them to the actual physical work, asking them scenarios that are real in the business. What happens if, how do you respond to an upset client? How do you respond to an ad that doesn't work? What are you going to do? You just get out, like, what are you going to do? What would you do in that situation? Right. Put the onus on them, put them on the spotlight. And if they're creative enough and they're confident enough, they'll say the right thing.
That's so true regarding testing people, because you may find that portfolios are even not the best representative of how a person is going to perform in real life, right? We had some issues with our editors as well, where we were basically just hiring someone based on their portfolio without testing them first, and then that just led to disasters, right? So now everybody has to go through the process as well. So that's really cool. How do you guys optimize for speed when retaining efficiency? Are there any processes that you kind of have in place as well, that in addition to the research, so that, how do you find balance between, like really outputting stuff fast? Because I know that that's what you guys are about as well, right? Getting this content out there quickly, while giving people enough space for creativity. What kind of, like, I don't know, KPIs or objectives and key results do you set for the videos so that there's a balance?
The first thing is having a really dialed in process. So knowing every step of the flow, creatively speaking, right? Mapping that out, making sure you have research, ideation, scripting, pre-production, production, or casting, production, editing, review, right? That's kind of like the creative process. And then within that, you want to make sure that the systems within that, the processes within that define, right? So for us, a lot of templates, a lot of things that are already pre-written. We obviously have curated a lot of assets ourselves in terms of libraries and research and people, all those things, so we can call upon things really quickly. But if you're doing things pretty fast, like, the key thing is to not get so caught up on the little details so much and just do it, right? Sometimes, like, people would be like, I would say maybe our clients are like, I don't like her face, or, I don't like the way the video looks or whatever. Like, if you want to move fast, you're going to make a lot of you're going to make mistakes, and you got to be okay with that. And you just got to keep moving forward. I feel like if you lose the momentum, you could really either kill the creativity or you can kill the flow. And it's like, okay, we'll just kind of like do as much as we can with the time that we're given. If you set a parameter of time, you will complete there's a principle within that, I forget the name of it, but depending on the time that you give it, you'll complete it within that time. So if you give yourself an hour, you'll get it done in an hour. But if you give yourself a week, you'll take the whole week. So you kind of have to put the pressure on yourself, because that's really when your brain starts to think quickly. It's like, oh shit, I have the time clicking. I got to make this happen. And that urgency will really get people moving forward.
No, that's a great answer. So what about, let's just final question about the culture, right? Because that's a topic that I've been exploring for the last few months, very, very in depth, and, cultivating the culture. What kind of mechanisms do you have in place so that, because your team is remote, right? Primarily, or do you guys work from an office?
We used to, obviously, pre-COVID. Now it's just production that works within our studio. So there's about, I think, 7 or 8 of them that work in-house in the studio, but everyone else is remote.
So especially for the remote team, how do you cultivate the culture to make sure that people are engaged and still, kind of invested in the process, having fun, are productive and happy at work?
That is an amazing question. That took a long time for me to really understand, because I think as a leader or as like a CEO, that is your main goal, is to make sure your people are happy. And that's not always the case. I think last year I led differently than I lead now. And I was more of like I would get mad a lot, it kind of, the culture wasn't as strong as it is now. And I'll explain why. Now, genuinely, it is not about me. It's about the people within the company who are doing the stuff. And my job is to empower them, to make them feel like they're making a difference, recognize them when they do great, amazing things. If they mess up, don't get mad. Let them know that, hey, we all make mistakes, nobody's perfect, and find ways to teach those lessons widespread so everyone can learn from them. And also, like, setting up regular meetings to actually just talk about personal stuff and ask how people are doing. Because a lot of the times everyone, especially remote, it's harder to communicate with your team because, one, time difference, 2, maybe even there's a language barrier. But if you just kind of ask these personal questions, hey, how you doing? Hey, like, I noticed you got a new cat or whatever. Like, people just want to know that they're being heard, being listened to, they're cared for. And if you can do that on a regular basis, whether that's a weekly meeting or daily messages or end of the day messages, whether you're using Slack or whatever communication, and letting people know how thankful you are for them. Because at the end of the day, if you have employees, like, you got to take care of them first, really. And so for me, I try to empower all of our leaders to do the same, whether you're in production, whether you're a scriptwriter leader, whether you're a post-production leader. Like, you want to empower your leaders to create other leaders too. You do that by just being authentic, genuine, loving, caring, all those amazing things. Because the more of a dick you are to people, the less responsive they'll be to you. That's what I've learned in the past.
Exactly, for sure. And if you're just kind of thinking from the position of, like, I'm the boss, I'm here to, like, tell you what to do, then essentially, your buy-in in the company is also dropping, and, like, less of creativity and less of the process improvement comes from bottom up, right? So I actually discovered that, I used to be very much in terms of, hey, here's a new process that I came up with. You guys are now executing that, right? But now but then, I would get all sorts of complaints and things like that. And, even though I started asking for feedback on the process, that wasn't that effective in terms of getting the people's buy-in, right? But while you actually involve the stakeholders in development of the process and, like, gathering all their kind of ideas and so on, you'll find that people start optimizing for you, right? So they actually, the innovation is coming from bottom up, and that's I think, like, the biggest kind of empowerment you can give to people. Just give them back the power, right?
I love that. You nailed it. 100%. If it's their idea, they're going to own that idea, right? If it's a collective idea, we all agree upon it, that is going to be an even more powerful process down the line because they made it, they created it. You just sign it off. And that works. That really does work.
Yeah, exactly. I'm wondering, do you use any kind of organized goal setting system in your company? Because we've recently adopted the objectives and key results, and that's been such a massive game changer.
Yeah, well, we use Asana. Basically, we break that down into monthly KPIs and yearly KPIs. And so we just check in every 30, 60, 90 days, basically with each one of our head departments. And we see if we hit those numbers. And if we don't, we just ask why, try to implement better processes next time. We're not crazy big on like, I would say like, you've got to hit X amount every single day. Because like then we kind of become robots, but obviously we have macro things that we need to hit.
Yeah. It's more about alignment, right? So that everyone is
Absolutely.
working towards the same thing. And
100%.
especially when you've got multiple departments, so that there are no silos, but actually people, talk to each other and things like that. Let's come back to the video topic, which is, what would you say to e-com owners or dropshippers who are still thinking that they can get away with not using original content in their ads?
I would say you're walking on very thin ice. Not to say that you can't be successful with doing that method, and I see it happen all the time. I just want to mention, if you are drop shipping, you're already in a risky position in terms of business, right? So I would really stress to advise you to protect yourself as much as you can, not make the same mistakes that I've made. The worst feeling is when you have scaled a product and you lose an account and you cannot advertise anymore, and all of your earnings and progress is just out the window, right? And that's a very scary feeling. What I would recommend is obviously, if you're lower budget, buy the product, shoot it yourself, or find another, I would say, company that is more affordable and work with them and see if you can get good results. But be very clear with what you're looking for in terms of if you don't trust a team or if you're just working out with a new team, be very specific if they can or cannot execute on certain things. Sometimes dropshipping videos can be really difficult because you're just pulling clips from YouTube. And so, to make something explode on camera is not as easy as just saying make something explode on camera, right? So and the thing about dropshipping videos is that they're the best of the best clips all mashed up into one thing. So you're like, from a production standpoint, you're like, oh my God, there's a lot of demonstrations. So yeah, it's a little bit of that. And I will say one thing about dropshipping. We are coming out with a service, and I haven't actually told anybody about this, only a couple people, but it's specifically for dropshippers, and it's going to be a stock video library that basically includes not all of our videos, but the ones that we have access to, all of the raw footage that's copyright free. Think, your blackhead removers, your what are some other dropshipping videos that are just evergreen, whatever, you get it. But it's going to be all there, and it's basically going to be a monthly service where you can get however many videos you need. And then also, if we don't have the footage, you can request us to shoot the footage, and we have multiple video teams who can do that and basically get you fresh new content. So not everyone is using the same videos, because I think that's the thing with dropshipping is like people are stealing videos so often, and it's like the same duplicate video. So everyone who's seen that is just like, okay, I'm over it. But that doesn't mean that the product doesn't work, right? People are just tired of that creative. And so what we want to do with this new service, I'm not going to say the name here, is basically allow those products to stay alive, and by creating new angles and new raw content for marketers to use.
That sounds like a pretty insane offer. So I'm looking forward to the launch. And I also wanted to ask you, what's your favorite commercial of all time? What's your favorite ad video?
Such a hard question, man. And is it weird that I like the ones that I made. Okay. I don't mean to be like egotistical or anything, but
it's the satisfaction kicking in for sure.
It resonated really well with the audience. I wrote a couple different versions. I don't know, just being able to produce something funny within the marketing space, I think for me was a blessing. It was just such an amazing opportunity. It makes me laugh, and to be able to make other people laugh, but then also sell them, I think was just a amazing thing how it all came together.
Awesome. So you guys actually get access to the data, right? The clients let you know how the videos performed.
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes we'll work really closely with clients and make sure that the creators are performing, especially those who have worked with us on a long-term basis or buy bigger packages. We'll make those optimizations for them based off of their data. CTRs are low, it's not converting. Okay, let's switch out this scroll stopper. Let's rearrange the video. Let's maybe shoot a different demonstration, whatever the case may be. So yeah, if you work with us for a longer term, or if you're paying a bigger package, we're happy to offer that.
That's pretty awesome, because it's not just about here's a video, like test it out, but you guys actually own the process, right? And as the direct response experts, you can optimize based on the data. Do you also
Absolutely.
train your team when it comes to data analyses of the creatives that they make?
Not necessarily. There's just a few of us who manage that, because it's a very delicate process, I think,
Yeah.
to be able to assess what's the causation of things, because you have to know, is it landing page? Is it your creative? Is it the CPMs? Is it Facebook? Yeah, like, there's so many different variables. But obviously we can assess things from a creative standpoint based off of, like, is it resonating with the audience? What are people saying? Let's try a different angle, that kind of stuff. But yeah, the high level stuff we usually do internally with just a couple people.
Got it. Okay, and last question. What's your favorite latest book that you've read? Something that the audience could benefit. Any area, personal development, business, whatever, fiction.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm glad you asked that question. I feel like not a lot of people are super into the personal development. I mean, they are, but there's so much to it. And I think it goes hand in hand with business, right? And you need that mindset. You need to have your internal work, per se, in check if you really want to succeed. For me, I have a ton of books over here, but I kind of jump around from YouTube videos to audibles to physical books. But right now, for me, the biggest thing is studying law of attraction. And right now, I subscribe to a subscription service called Gaia, basically spirituality, consciousness kind of videos that are just mind blowing. It goes to such depths of what you're trying to learn about whatever topic, and specifically law of attraction. And I'll say this to anybody who's interested. Basically, the universe that we live in will cater to you given your vibration and your intentions and the things that you focus on. So if you want to attract positive things in your life, you've got to change your beliefs to make them positive, and you've got to stay positive. If you want to attract negative things in your life, you can think negative thoughts and take negative actions. And a lot of the times there's this imbalance between our emotions and truly, like, what we're capable of doing, because we're unaware of our emotions and where they're at in a scale. And let's just simplify this as number one, the main emotion that manifests the most beauty and creation in your life is joy, empowerment, freedom, appreciation, love, gratitude. If you can tap into that emotion, those emotions, for as long as you can, doesn't matter what you're experiencing, good or bad, the universe will basically realign you and present to you those things. Now, if you're on the bottom stage, which is fear, helplessness, depression, insecurity, all those things, you're not going to be able to manifest the things that you want in your life, because you're stuck in that cycle. And don't get me wrong, we all jump around. Sometimes I'm fearful, but it's being able to recognize when you're fearful, putting yourself in a positive mindset, a loving, appreciative mindset, and get you out of that negative funk, get you out of that vibration, raise your vibration, and thus the universe will provide. And I'll leave it at that. But if that makes any sense to anybody,
It makes perfect sense. And because you emanate to the outside also whatever it's on the inside, right? So just like you mentioned, you gotta, like, your business culture is also the the expression of who you are on the inside, right? So that's why I realized that some of the kind of symptoms of kind of my internal, for example, lack of organization were pretty obvious when looking at our business, right? And when I started fixing them in myself, it automatically kind of I see how to propagate those changes into the culture, right? So it's the same with positive emotions. If you're positive on the inside, you're not going to be lashing out on your team, and they're going to give you back in the form of positive emotions as well, right?
Beautifully said, brother.
So
Beautifully
on
said.
that note, John, thank you so much for the call. It's been a pleasure. I think we've discovered a lot of super useful stuff that our audience can use, whether they're trying to build their own team regarding the creative production, optimize their creatives, or just choose who's the best original video production agency out there. I think it's pretty clear by now. So thank you so much, John. Any last remarks?
Now I just want to say I'm very grateful, appreciative of this opportunity, Matt, and being able to just, talk about the things that we love doing is just always something I'm grateful for. So I appreciate the opportunity, and I hope that you guys get some value out of this because I had a lot of fun.
Perfect. So if people want to find out more about you, where can they find out?
Yeah, just visit our site, ecomvids.com. There's links there. You can schedule a call with our sales team or email us if you have any questions. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Perfect. And also you mentioned something about the scroll stoppers that you're going to share with the audience, right? So we're going to put the link to that below the video as well. Thanks
Absolutely.
a lot, John. Been a pleasure. Cheers.
Likewise, Matt. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for staying till the very end. This was e-commerce scaling strategies by Sales Genomics, brought to you by Matt from Sales Genomics. If you're interested in more tips and strategies on how to scale your e-commerce business, visit our Facebook group called E-commerce Scaling Strategies by Sales Genomics, or follow us on social media.